The insane ending is this: the UFC's biggest new era card detonates before it even begins. A lawsuit explodes behind the scenes, Gaethje is suddenly gone, and Arman Tsarukyan slides into UFC 324 like a loaded weapon. And now rewind with me, because you don't just wake up to Dana White filing papers and rewriting a division unless something went seriously, violently wrong, and Nat, this can't be real, but it is. And the consequences are already leaking out. This didn't start with a contract or a phone call. It started with a photo. One ugly little mark on Justin Gaethje's neck that turned the entire lightweight division into a crime scene overnight. Because fans didn't see an ingrown hair, they saw the word nobody wants to say, staph. And once that word enters the chat, everything freezes, commissions panic, lawyers wake up, and suddenly UFC 324 isn't a show anymore, it's a liability.
Rumors have been swirling that Justin Gaethje is injured. A few videos have surfaced of him diving and cracking heads with someone, which wobbled him bad. Do you have any inside information? Have you not heard of that?
You could feel it instantly. That weird silence from the top, that delay where nobody confirms anything, but nobody denies anything either. And that's when alarms go off in my head, because the UFC never stays quiet unless they're calculating damage control or lining up a replacement. And I'm telling you right now, someone knew this was coming before the fans did, and someone is absolutely lying by omission.
Ingrown hair is what he's claiming.
Okay.
Ingrown hair and a bit of brisket. Yeah.
Brisket?
Yeah, a little brisket on the chin.
Because they said he had herpes on his mouth. He's like, I was eating brisket and I had an ingrown hair.
If that is an ingrown hair, that's the gnarliest ingrown hair I've ever seen. That makes like a little red dot on your neck if it's an ingrown hair. He had a crater in his neck. I don't know about that.
Gaethje jumps online fast, almost too fast, saying it's just an ingrown hair, nothing to see here, move along. But listen to the tone, defensive, rushed, like he's trying to outrun a narrative already sprinting past him. And when a fighter has to reassure the internet instead of the commission, that's when you know the problem isn't cosmetic, it's procedural, medical, legal, the kind of stuff that cancels main events.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
I do know
exactly where you're going.
Enter Arman.
Yes.
Enter Arman.
Yes, it's time. Now, is Arman ready is the thing.
Is that what he walks out to?
those videos.
No, but
Oh my God. Enter Arman.
Enter Arman. Walking out there eating a turkey leg. I mean, come on.
185-pound catch weight.
What a
Honestly,
moment, though. Wouldn't
they
that
could
kind
have
of
a
be the
fight.
best thing for the UFC?
And then an eating contest.
Yeah. Oh my God. Him and Paddy. Yes.
I'm legitimately though. I don't think Arman Tsarukyan could make weight on this short of a time frame.
Try him.
And here's where it gets dark, because UFC 324 isn't just another pay-per-view. This is the first crown jewel of a brand new broadcast era, billions on the line, eyes everywhere. And the idea that the headline fight could collapse over a preventable medical issue is the kind of embarrassment that makes executives furious, not sad, furious. And that fury doesn't just vanish, it looks for someone to blame.
I think Ilya and Arman are the two best guys in the world. I think they need a fight at some point, because I think Paddy Pimblett is awesome. Justin Gaethje is awesome. Arman and Ilya seem to have something, and not only something in terms of skill, but between the two that we could build a great fight around, right? So yeah, I think Arman's fantastic though, man. He's good. He looked great against Dan Hooker too.
In your opinion, why UFC is not giving Arman a title fight?
I don't know. I don't know why Arman's not fighting for a title. I really don't. I've heard the reason because of what happened in Los Angeles. I thought that by weighing in as the backup fighter when Ilya fought Charles, and then by going and fighting Charles Oliveira or Dan Hooker, it would be okay. I don't know. I don't know what the conversations that they're having behind closed doors are, because they're telling him something that's making him okay with it, right? Because if he wasn't okay with it, he would be more loud about him not getting his opportunity. Yeah. So I kind of defer to, they know more than we do. And so we got to kind of accept it for what it is, because it seems like Arman is doing that too.
Now watch how fast Arman Tsarukyan's name starts floating back into the conversation like a ghost. They tried to bury too early, because suddenly the guy they sidelined becomes the only clean solution, the only uncontaminated option, the fighter who did everything right and got punished anyway. And it feels poetic in a dangerous way, like the division is correcting itself out of spite.
The agreement by all, we're good. I believe that. some people say, then Chael, why isn't he fighting for the belt? Well, I'll tell you why. He got put in what was known as a number 1 contenders match in November. But that was supposed to draw into Ilya, who then says he's not going to be present, and they decide they're going to contest the title in January. So that would be a turnaround for Tsarukyan from November to January. And it's just very quick. I think that Tsarukyan's next fight is going to be for the title. That may end up being interim. That may, right? I mean, it's one of these. It's one of these things. It's one of these things that's got some moving parts. We don't all know yet what an interim belt is. We don't know. We largely agree as a community that at a minimum, an interim belt makes you the number 1 contender for the undisputed belt. But when we saw that Aspinall had to wait as the interim champion, we found out that that wasn't completely right. So, but hear me out, because we would think that Paddy Gaethje, if Ilya returns, we then got to go do that match. That could delay the championship opportunity of Tsarukyan, but that's not because of a penance. You see the difference? Like we would have to do that. That wouldn't be a penance to Arman. We would have to give the interim champion the undisputed champion.
Think about how twisted this looks. Gaethje potentially out, Pimblett exposed as a marketing gamble, and Arman sitting there with a 5-fight streak. Zero controversy, elite wins, and unfinished business with the belt. And if he steps in now, it doesn't look like favoritism. It looks like inevitability, and that terrifies people who thought they controlled the timeline.
We all know that Arman Tsarukyan is the rightful number 1 contender. The UFC decided to go the route of Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje. Tell me this, how does Justin Gaethje go from getting knocked out by a featherweight to beating a number 12 ranked Rafael Fiziev to now getting an interim title shot? Paddy Pimblett kind of made sense just because of the amount of hype he has, but then Justin Gaethje, yes, he's a big name, but he's been doing absolutely nothing but threatening to retire if he doesn't get a title shot. They obviously didn't want Justin Gaethje to retire, and they obviously didn't want to feed Paddy Pimblett to Arman Tsarukyan, and then they also didn't want to give Arman Tsarukyan the next title shot. So an interim title between Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje makes the most sense for them, apparently. If you had told me after that Jared Gordon fight that Paddy Pimblett would be 3 fights away from getting a title shot, bro, I would have crashed out. Look at Paddy Pimblett's last few wins. Bobby Green, who was on a 1-fight win streak, and then he beat Tony Ferguson, who was on like a 20-fight losing streak, and then he beat Michael Chandler, who, come on.
People keep asking why Dana would go nuclear legally, and that's the wrong question. The real question is who forced his hand, because lawsuits don't appear out of nowhere. They appear when contracts are threatened, when assurances are broken, when someone's mistake risks costing real money. And I don't believe for a second this is just about a neck infection. Something else is hiding under that surface. This whole interim title mess already felt unstable. Paddy jumping the line, Gaethje getting another shot after chaos, Arman being told to wait quietly, and now the universe slaps the table and says no, not like this. And every decision that looked cute for promotion suddenly looks reckless under medical scrutiny.
That night 8 years ago, what's like the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that fight with Justin?
That I'm glad it's over and I never want to do it again. I'm like, the fans don't ever ask for a rematch or anything like that, because that would have never. I'm like, I'm glad. He's unique, man, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch. So like, but if you want to beat Justin Gaethje, you have to. So he's a forward fighter and a pressure fighter that he will stand in the pocket. and he's gonna throw everything he got in that pocket. If you don't meet him, you'll get chewed up. So Paddy, the way to beat a guy who like does this, very violent, aggressive pressure fighter, you have to meet him. You have to throw when he throws. So you got to be brave, and you have to go when he goes in between his shots. If you do that, you got a fair shot. If you don't do that, if you're not brave and courageous and throw when he throws in between his shots, it's going to be a really long night. It's going to be a hard night for you.
You want a paranoia trigger? Here it is. Why was Arman always hovering as the unofficial backup? Why was his name never far away? Why did insiders keep saying be ready? Because backups aren't just backups, they're insurance policies. And you don't buy insurance unless you're worried something might fail. And I think they were worried weeks ago.
They're not even, like, they're just basically saying Paddy's more popular, you're getting it over Arman.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, right? And that's, I mean, God, I hate like how I kind of get into this too much, but I mean, that's really like, that's the definition of, you know, a monopoly where a single promoter owns the title and the rankings. And it's not a good thing for the sport, in my opinion. And I have to question what it's going to do for the longevity of the sport. You know, I don't think in the short term it's really going to make a big difference, right? Like, you know, it's going to sell the next fight, right? It's going to sell the next pay-per-view. But trends tend to come and go, right? Fads tend to come and go. At some point, like, you know, to have staying power and lasting power, I think it requires, you know, a meritocracy-based system. It's going to require, you know, some, you know, if you want to bring in guys like Arman Tsarukyan or Movsar Evloev, I always mess up how I say his name. You want to bring in these Olympic wrestling level guys. I mean, they don't want to have to go out there and put on some ridiculous show to become a champion. They don't want to have to go on Instagram and start a podcast and make you know, whatever kind of skits on social media and this silly kind of stuff. Like, they just want to be a world champion because they want to be the best athlete. And that's what makes me wonder how the staying power is going to be, right? When you're dealing with guys that are, you know, legitimate athletes that want to be legitimate athletes, and they're getting passed up by guys that are entertainers.
And don't sleep on the Pimblett angle either, because if Gaethje is out and Arman is in, that reshapes Paddy's entire trajectory overnight, from protected star to sacrificial lamb. And the UFC knows exactly what that would mean long term. So every delay, every vague update feels like they're stalling for time to decide who they're willing to burn. I keep replaying how fast everything escalated: the photo, the speculation, the damage control, the whispers about replacements, and now legal smoke. And it doesn't add up cleanly. It feels jagged, rushed, like multiple fires started at once, and nobody's sure which one to put out first. Here's another thing nobody wants to touch. Commissions do not care about hype, they care about precedent. And if there's even a chance Gaethje passed something through camp, that opens doors the UFC does not want opened. Doors that lead to audits, medical records, accountability. And once that process starts, you don't just shut it down with a tweet. So when you hear Arman Tsarukyan's name getting louder, understand that's not fans dreaming, that's infrastructure moving, that's contingency becoming reality. And if he walks into UFC 324 as the replacement, it will feel sudden to casuals, but inevitable to anyone paying attention, and that shift will haunt this division for years. And I'm not saying this is over, I'm saying it's barely started, because every update so far feels incomplete. Every explanation feels rehearsed, and every silence feels heavier than the last. And if you think the next piece of news will calm things down, you haven't been watching this sport long enough. Something else is coming, and when it hits, it's going to hit harder. Stay sharp, because divisions don't collapse quietly. They crack, they creak, they expose secrets, and right now the lightweight division sounds like it's under pressure from every direction, and one more wrong move could blow the whole thing wide open. What keeps bothering me is how familiar this feels, because every time the UFC swears everything is under control, it's usually the moment when the floor gives out. And this Gaethje situation has that same nervous energy where officials speak carefully, fighters overshare emotionally, and fans are left stitching together clues like we're decoding a crime scene instead of a fight card. I can't shake the feeling that Dana White didn't wake up one morning and decide to play legal hardball for fun. Because lawsuits are leverage weapons, not emotional reactions, and if he's reaching for one now, it means someone crossed a line that threatened the business side in a way hype alone couldn't fix. People want to frame Arman Tsarukyan stepping in as Luck, but Luck doesn't look this prepared, because the guy has been hovering around the title picture like a shadow for months, winning quietly, staying ready, and waiting for the exact kind of chaos that exposes how fragile matchmaking really is. Every time I replay the timeline, the neck photo, the delayed confirmation, the sudden confidence from Arman's camp, it feels less like coincidence and more like inevitability. Like the UFC tried to force a story and the sport itself rejected it violently. Justin Gaethje's position here is tragic and dangerous at the same time, because if this really is just an ingrown hair, then his name still gets dragged through suspicion, but if it's more than that, then his legacy risks being rewritten not by a knockout, but by paperwork and medical reports. What nobody wants to say out loud is that interim titles already cheapen clarity, and now this one is soaked in controversy before the cage door even closes, which means whoever walks away with it will carry an asterisk no matter how dominant they look. Keep thinking about Paddy Pimblett in all of this, because hype can protect you until it doesn't. And the moment Arman becomes the opponent instead of Gaethje, that safety net vanishes, and suddenly popularity doesn't stop takedowns or erase bad matchups. There's also something unsettling about how fast fans accepted the idea of Arman replacing Gaethje, like the audience itself subconsciously knew the original plan was unstable, and when a fan base pivots that quickly, it usually means trust was already cracking. Dana White has always sold control and certainty, but this situation exposes how thin that illusion can get when health, contracts, and broadcast deadlines collide, and once people see that vulnerability, they start questioning every other decision that led here. I don't buy the idea that this ends cleanly with a simple replacement announcement, because too many interests are colliding at once: fighters' careers, network expectations, legal exposure, and the UFC's long-term credibility. And those things never resolve without collateral damage. If Arman Tsarukyan does step into UFC 324, it won't just be a fight, it'll be an indictment of how the division has been handled, a walking reminder that merit was always waiting in the wings while spectacle took center stage. What scares promoters more than backlash is precedent. And if this situation rewards the guy they sidelined for being too good and too quiet, it changes how future contenders behave, and that threatens the leverage the UFC relies on. I keep circling back to the silence, because silence is never neutral in this sport. It's either strategy or fear, and right now it feels like both, like everyone involved is waiting to see who blinks first. Fans think chaos is entertaining, but for the people running the show, chaos is expensive, unpredictable, and hard to spin, and this kind of mess sticks around longer than any viral clip or press conference rant. Even if Gaethje is medically cleared tomorrow, the doubt doesn't disappear, because once suspicion enters the narrative, it stains everything, and that stain follows fighters into negotiations, rankings, and public perception. I also think this exposes how dangerous it is to lean too hard into personality-driven matchmaking, because when the personalities falter, there's nowhere to hide from the cold math of wins, losses, and readiness. Arman's patience might end up being his greatest weapon here, because while others argued, threatened retirement, or chased headlines, he kept building a case that now feels impossible to ignore. The UFC hates being forced into reactive decisions, and right now every move they make looks reactive, not visionary, and that's the kind of thing competitors and regulators quietly take notes on. What we're watching isn't just a fight change, it's a stress test of the UFC's entire modern model, where money, momentum, and merit are constantly at war behind the scenes. And the reason this still feels unfinished is because situations like this never resolve with one announcement, they unravel in chapters, and the next chapter is already loading whether anyone is ready for it or not.